The Saints made a absolutely ridiculous trade on Wednesday. We'll break down the biggest winners and losers from that move next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner, so visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today is Matt Williamson. You can follow him on Twitter at Williamson NFL. You can check him out all over the Locked On Podcast Network. And on today's show, we're going to talk about Emeka Egbuka's trade value in Dynasty Leagues. Do we care where Brian Robinson Jr. lands? But let's start with this trade that happened on Wednesday. I actually thought it was a fake Adam Schefter tweet when it first came out.
Adam Schefter, one of those guys? Yeah.
One or whatever in it. The Saints acquired Devaughn Vele from the Denver Broncos for a 4th-round pick. Now, I haven't been able to confirm if it's the Saints' 4th-round pick or like a comp pick, but Matt, there's a chance that either way, there's a chance that that's like a top 110 pick. Before we get into the dynasty value here, you were somebody who worked in front offices, personnel departments, just 10,000-foot view. What do you think of this trade?
Couple things. First of all, I think some people are like, oh, he's a lot like Marquise Colston. The Saints love those guys. I'm like, yeah, but the dude that traded him is the guy that used Colston. I mean, it's Peyton sending him back to his old team. Now, 10,000-foot view or a million-foot view, when the Walmart family bought the Denver Broncos, I often look at new ownership like they're in over their head. I'm like, they gave Sean Payton a ridiculous contract. Maybe he's just going through the motions and going to cash these checks. And I couldn't have been more wrong. You know, I mean, like nobody wanted that Denver job after the Wilson trade and those type of things. I think Payton and this organization, but mostly Payton, are just so smart and have gotten more and more out of that's not really a dynasty take, but he wins way more games than he should with the players given in Denver. And
well, maybe that is a dynasty take, though. Like if you have someone like Bo Nix, like you just feel good that this coaching staff and this front office is going to continue to put talent around him so that he doesn't fall off.
Yeah, and where I was going from with a dynasty take, just from Denver's side, they must like the other receivers not named Cortland Sutton more than we think. You know, Pat Bryant and Franklin and those guys. I mean, they wouldn't.
Marvin Mims.
Yeah, Mims, exactly. You know, I mean, he's a little different than the two small guys. But still, I'm sure they looked at it like he's probably our 5th receiver. He had a nice year, but he's super limited. We turned it into a good pick. I mean, let's go. And I like the guys better that we kept.
And honestly, that's a take for me. Like if you one of those guys, like I like Marvin Mims. I thought what we saw from Marvin Mims in the second half of last year was
I kind of
really
like
good.
Bryant, you know. And
There's other people that like Troy Franklin because of what he's done in the preseason and camp. So if you like one of those three, you're going to like them even more today.
Yes.
But the big story is like I'm shocked at the Saints, who feel very much like they're in a rebuild, but they don't know they know they're in a rebuild, are giving away assets for a soon-to-be 28-year-old receiver. Matt, like this is wild to me, and maybe it should tell us more about what they think of Chris Olave's health or Rashid Shaheed, what he's looking like. I honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, and the reason I brought up the Denver organization as a whole from a mile-high view, I had to use that one instead of 10,000.
There you go.
I think about it, is I think the Saints are a dumb organization. I mean, the older I get, and I'm a little older than you, I just think some of these organizations are smart and some are dumb. You know, and not that I'm smarter than NFL organizations, but I've been doing it a long time, and the Saints never change their stripes. I make the same joke all the time that it's always Mardi Gras for the Saints, and they don't care about the hangover, and they're just living for today to maybe win one more game with these two young quarterbacks and trading future assets as they always do, as opposed to accumulating them. Just is not how I would do business at all. Maybe during the Drew Brees era, which was a million years ago, when you have a shot to win the whole thing. but to maybe get from the second pick in the draft to the fourth, I mean, like, what's the upside here? And then the other thing I would throw out, though, is I guess he's a somewhat young quarterback friendly target, big guy, easy throws. I mean, if I could defend him in any way, it's still way too much to give up. And could Olave be on the move to Pittsburgh?
Maybe. One of the things, not to your Steelers, just relax for a second. One of the things that we do is we like to grade the process of these trades and not necessarily the outcome, right? I mean, the outcome matters, right? But it's just that if you're a team like the Saints, you shouldn't be trading away 4th-round picks. You might need those to go get a quarterback next year or to build a roster. But for a dynasty purposes, I always struggle with that part of it a little bit, where you talk about like, hey, this is a big target for a young quarterback.
I'm reaching.
They don't like to throw to guys that are covered all the time. They would rather throw to the guys that are open, that
or over the middle, where there's a ton of really fast, strong, really good players. Right.
I think about, like, I'm going to use my Cowboy bias here. Dak Prescott early in his career actually didn't love throwing to Dez Bryant because Dez was covered all the time. His favorite target was Cole Beasley, who got open really quick and created a lot of separation. Yeah. So we'll see how it works out. But I think it feels like there's another move coming for the Saints, because you don't just give up a 4th-round pick when you have Brandon Cooks on your roster and Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and some of the other down roster receivers.
And no one's
something smells fishy.
Yeah.
Something smells fishy here, though. That's kind of my whole point.
And Olave is the only one I think that could move.
Yeah, because I don't think Shaheed has very much.
Coming off a big injury. And, I don't know. Sometimes I just look at the Saints and go, I don't know what you're thinking. The only thing I can give them credit for is they've drafted a tackle in the last 2 years, and I think that's really smart. But other than that, I don't understand.
Are you also just saying that because your Steelers drafted a tackle in the first 2
rounds? Well, a little. There
you go.
I've warmed up to the move, but I just think if you're going to draft tackles, I'm in your favor no matter what, because I have to give Dan Moore $22 million to
I'd rather draft somebody.
Then draft him.
We did have one other wide receiver trade. I almost said big receiver trade. That's not true. Sky Moore got traded from the Chiefs to the 49ers. We don't care about this at all, do we?
No, the Niners are just so beat up at wideout right now. It looks like Pearsall's the guy. Just reading the preseason tea leaves, Pearsall seems to be the one that's the number one target as we speak at wideout. Yeah. I think they're just looking for bodies, and all of a sudden, after drafting, who the Chiefs draft? I should know this off the top. Royals.
Oh, Jalen Royals. Yeah.
I don't know that Moore fits into anymore. So this is just one of those. We're either going to cut him or get something for him.
Yeah. Reading some of the quotes from Kyle Shanahan on Brandon Ayuk, like it's pretty clear they hate each other and they don't really want to work together.
They hate each other, yeah.
Yeah, so Brandon Ayuk, we're actually going to talk about him on tomorrow's show with Fabs, but he's all the way down to wide receiver 40 in dynasty leagues, and that feels really low for a player of his talent. But man, that situation doesn't seem great coming off a big knee injury. So make sure you guys are tuning in for that. All right, let's talk about Emeka Egbuka, who, when the Buccaneers drafted him, he was buried on that depth chart. Not anymore. We'll talk about his dynasty value next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Maybe you think Joe Burrow is going to put up even better stats because that defense is awful in Cincinnati. Or maybe you think you know who's going to win the Super Bowl. Maybe you think this is the year Buffalo finally puts it together. Or parlay your division winner, dark horses. Maybe you think teams like the Cowboys and Steelers are going to surprise and win their divisions. We'll see. Go make your bets right now. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Matt, Cowboys, Steelers, dark horse division winners? No?
No. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's more likely than Dallas, but that's for another time.
I started the Cowboy documentary last night on Netflix. I watched.
Did you like it?
One. It's all right. I mean, I watched the first episode. It was fine.
It's a lot of Cowboy nostalgia. If you're not for that, I get it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Emeka Egbuka, who going into the month of August, wide receiver 22 on Dynasty League football. But since that ADP has come out, right, we had Chris Godwin, who we know was going to miss some time. He's not going to be on the PUP list, but he's going to miss at least the first few weeks of the season. You have Jalen McMillan, who has a neck injury, and the latest reports are he's going on the injured reserve list. He's likely to miss at least the first half of the season, which puts Emeka Egbuka right in the starting lineup, probably playing out of the slot, in week one. How are you valuing Egbuka going forward? Are you trying to trade for him? Are you kind of waiting and seeing what's the plan here?
All right. So you've brought up your Cowboys. I've already brought my Steelers a couple times, but I think it's relevant. Tampa was just here last week and with a joint practice and their game. And I watched the McMillan injury happen live. I was like right there and I was like, oh, this is bad. And it ended up being bad. So that's unfortunate.
Not as bad as it could have. It seemed like at the time.
At the time, I was like, "Oh no, this might be like stretcher, real bad." But anyway, I guess they kind of dodged a bullet, and he will be back. We had some Godwin news today that he's basically going to start on the PUP. I would assume. I mean, he's getting worked back onto the field, but he has not done anything.
No.
But I bring up the Steelers for this reason: so the big talk around here. I joked about Olave. Is a receiving core good enough? And then blah, blah, blah. And I didn't go to the joint practice. I had to do other stuff, but I've talked to like 3 of my favorite beat writers that I trust and have beers with at camp, et cetera. And they're like, anyone that thought the Steelers receiving core was good enough should watch the Bucks. Because when you watch them live and they're in town after watching the Steelers for 3 weeks in training camp, they were blown away by Egbuka and Evans in particular. And at that point, they're like, McMillan's a 3. We'd kill for him to be a 2. Yeah. Evans hasn't lost a step. Egbuka's unbelievable. He caught a touchdown against the Steelers. So I think all the hype is very real. And I think both those guys are going to get a ton of targets. And I can't imagine rushing Godwin back, especially I think they're looking at him for like next year and the year after. I mean, that contract.
Or a playoff run.
Right? Playoff run. Right, exactly.
To have him back when the games really matter. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess what you're going to ask me next is not do you like Egbuka? Everyone on the planet likes Egbuka. What's he worth? And that's going to be tough, I guess, But I would not think Evans is done either.
Although he did have like a kind of a weird report on the sideline with a reporter. I think it was at the Steeler camp where someone said, "Oh, you're still playing well. How many more years do you have left?" And he kind of made this face like, "Years have left. This might be it, right?"
For Evans, you're talking about?
Yeah, for Evans.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I think. I mean, for this year, I guess that was kind of a redraft lens,
right? Yeah. All right. So what I wanted to talk about is how highly do we value Egbuka? Because I think there's a chance, Matt, that we get into like week 3 and Egbuka's getting 8-9 targets a game, and they're high quality targets from the slot.
Could he be McConkey?
Or better? Because I think he's a better prospect than McConkey is, right? And we've been comparing him, not the player, but the situation a lot to like CeeDee Lamb when the Cowboys drafted CeeDee Lamb, where he was behind Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup and Cedric Wilson. And then you got into like week 3. He was already the best receiver on the roster. Is there a chance that happens with Egbuka? Maybe he's not better than Evans, but it's not far off.
And if next year, he's the 1, Godwin's the 2, McMillan's the 3, you don't really miss a beat. No. This year, if he just eats into Evans and the 2 of them are getting a ton of targets the first half of the season, you're very happy. And then it's like Smith and Jigba last year where he kind of goes past Metcalf. You know what I mean?
Well,
you just have to keep feeding them.
This is where I'm at. Like we talked about this with Fabs last week. I really struggle when it comes to like the wide receiver 1s on bad offenses versus the high-end wide receiver 2s on really good offenses. And I think you and I both think eventually Egbuka is going to be the wide receiver 1, but like, should there be a 20 spot difference between Garrett Wilson, who we both like, and Emeka Egbuka right now in Dynasty leagues?
Probably not. That's a hard position to comment because those 20 guys in between are all pretty good. It's not like running back or,
Right. Let me give you another example. Rashid Rice. Rashid Rice is wide receiver 15 right now. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver 22. You know how much I love Rice. And even I'm thinking about maybe if I can flip Rashid for Egbuka, I think I would do it.
Because of the off the field. Like
off the field, and honestly, Xavier Worthy worries me a little bit. I just think he's a really good player.
I understand that too. Real quick, Rashid Rice isn't one of our little bullet points on the side of our visual here.
We can talk about
it. But it sounds like, I get the impression people are optimistic because they're not going to have that hearing until late. I still think that hearing is going to be like a 10-game suspension, though. I mean,
and that's been the report
on camera fleeting the scene, and he's got like 10 felony charges against him. The NFL's not kind to those guys.
And that's been kind of the report, is that the NFL offered a 10-game suspension to Rashid Rice. Yeah. He said no, they were hoping for more like 4. And that's why it's going to be, this is going to be bleeding into the season. And, if let's say it's 8, let's say they go from 10 to 8. I mean, 8's a pretty big number. That's most of the fantasy season, including I think right on the line of the playoffs. It's a big deal.
It's a real big deal. And if he was dumb enough to do that once, is he dumb enough to do it again and then get a year? You know what I mean? Like, I like him better than Egbuka as a player, but I would trade Rice. I would trade Egbuka, or I'd rather have Egbuka than Rice.
Well,
I was going to throw out Smith-Njigba versus Egbuka.
Oh, I'd rather have Egbuka.
Oh, okay. I thought that
what's funny is JSN is one of the biggest risers in ADP over the last month. He's all the way up to wide receiver 11 right now.
That doesn't shock me.
So we're talking about Egbuka already being a top 10 receiver. And that's why I said it. I wonder how hard it's going to be to acquire him kind of going into the season. If you have to pay top 10 prices, I'm probably out. But if it's anything less than that, it might be, right? Like, take a look at somebody like Brian Thomas Jr., right? Brian Thomas had a fantastic rookie season, and now you can't trade for him unless you're giving up like Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. You can't get him
3 firsts or something.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. You want him over McConkey?
I think I would take Egbuka over McConkey.
Wow. Okay.
And honestly, it's not because of talent. I think they're similar. It's just because I struggle to see Ladd staying healthy. And I hope that's not the case. I hope he plays every game, but he just has a very slight frame. I know the weight, he's like the same size as Garrett Wilson, but there were a lot of games last year where he would get banged up and miss a drive or 2 and then come back.
Yeah. And he does take big hits and,
All right,
okay, but yeah.
Couple trades real quick that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, that's a good exercise. I'd like to do that.
All right. Now this is if you want to get Emeka. Justin Jefferson for Amon-Ra St. Brown and Emeka Egbuka.
That might come down to roster space and what my starters look like, but I lean towards the 2 guys.
Yeah, because I don't think there's a difference between Amon-Ra and Justin Jefferson, but I don't think it's a top 15 receiver difference. Do you?
I was going to say the exact same thing. I mean, okay. I don't think it's 2 firsts difference.
Okay.
I mean, you give up 2 firsts if you're a good team right now for Egbuka? If you think you're not going to pick the top 5 next year?
Maybe.
Here, first in 2 seconds, yeah.
I think. Well, here's a couple other trades involving first. So Emeka Egbuka for a 2026 first-round pick in Jerry Jeudy.
Egbuka.
Okay.
I'm not a Jeudy guy at all.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
Emeka Egbuka for Jameson Williams in a 2026 first-round pick.
Egbuka. I'm not super high on Williams either.
Okay.
He has a really good knack of getting suspended and hurt too.
Yeah, that one. Yes, that one's a little closer for me. One more that I wanted to throw at you. Emeka Egbuka for Devontae Smith, who is still being drafted ahead of Egbuka right now based on ADP. I think that's going to change.
That probably will, but I'm a Smith guy.
Yep, and a 2026 first-round pick.
I'd probably take I'd probably take the Smith side.
Smith side.
Yeah, I just think he's really good at football. I think he's the better football player.
And I do wonder, like, is there going to be a time, at least I feel like there's going to be a time where Devontae Smith is the clear-cut wide receiver 1 in Philadelphia, whether that means, AJ Brown.
Sometime in the next 6 years of his life,
Yeah. And I feel like his game is going to age really well. So we'll see. We are Devontae Smith fans. We saw what he did at Alabama. It's just a ridiculous plair.
I also think their passing percentage has to go up this year.
Yes.
They won't lead the league, but it'll go up.
Yes. I think they had the 3rd lowest pass rate over the last 10 years. They're going to have to pass the ball
a little more, right?
All right, let's talk about Brian Robinson Jr.,
Okay.
who has been in every single trade rumor over the last 2 days. We'll talk about his dynasty value and where we'd like to see him land next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you could end up leaving money on the table. That is where Monarch Money comes in. It's all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. My family's been using Monarch Money for about the last 10 months, and it's unbelievable how they've been able to help us kind of slash some of our spending, cut back in some certain areas. Now we are taking control of our finances and building our wealth. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast with hosts Vinny Iyer and Michelle Majuk. Listen every day to prep for your fantasy drafts and become the most informed manager so you can take home your league's trophy this season. Find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Matt, let's talk about Brian Robinson Jr., who, I mean, Troy Aikman basically spilled the beans on Monday Night Football. Like they've been trying to trade him for weeks. And the reason this report came out is because they think he's making too much money on the last year of his contract, and they're just done. They want to roll with some of the young guys and then Austin Eckler. Where would you like to see Brian Robinson land from a fantasy and dynasty perspective?
I was never a big fan. I don't think he's a special player. I think he's kind of a plodder. You know, if he didn't go to Bama, maybe he wouldn't even have the pedigree he did type of guy. But I think he could mess things up for some backfields and get in the way. Dallas is always going to be the first thought anytime a running back potentially moves. Could he be the Montgomery to Swift in Chicago? Both those would be fine for me, and I don't think it'd screw things up too bad if he were to go to one of those spots. Quick note, and I assume you saw this in your dynasty leagues too, but if Chris Rodriguez wasn't already in the league, he got picked up in every league on waivers this last day or two. And I'm not even sure I'm running the waiver wire for him. But it makes me think, all of this makes me think that they were either going to cut Robinson or trade him for nothing. Like, I don't think it's going to be a fifth round. It's not going to be a Vele pick. I mean, it's going to be a 6 or 7.
No, I just hope it's not my Cowboys that do that. But go ahead. Yes.
Which implies to me that the league doesn't value him very much. And yeah, he could mess up a backfield, but probably not as bad as you think because no one's going to count on him to be the guy.
I would agree. And one of the things I've kind of heard just through the grapevine is that teams are worried about the fumbling. Like he's averaged one fumble every 70 touches, which is a pretty high amount. And you're not creating big plays and you're not a special pass catcher and you're fumbling a lot. There's just not going to be a big market. You're kind of replaceable. And we see what those guys go for in free agency every year. Those are like the 1 year, $2.5 million players.
Right.
He's
like a lesser version of Najee Harris because he fumbles. He doesn't have the reliability factor at least working for him. You know,
he's basically Javonte Williams 2.0. I mean, I think he's got maybe a little bit more juice than Javonte has at this point, but you're talking about like the same caliber player. So wherever he lands at this point, like I have a hard time ever seeing him become like an RB2 like we've seen in Washington the last couple of years. It feels like to me, Matt, that he's just going to be more annoying from a fantasy, perspective than anything else.
Probably. I don't want to steal your thunder, but you did throw out a name of a team that you
go ahead
don't want him to go to in the Bengals, which I think adds up.
We think that's a great real life fit, like somebody who can run between tackles.
Cincinnati, yeah.
But we don't want that from a fantasy perspective, right? Because I think Chase Brown is one of these guys that could get just 1 million touches and maybe the best offense in the league. So anything that would steal away opportunities, we're not interested in.
Yeah, I joked before we hit record that I'm not all that impressed with Chase Brown. I don't think he's a great player. He's better than Robinson, But the beauty of him is there's nobody else in the backfield, and they give him like 80% of the touches last year when Moss went down. So I don't want somebody eating into that, and Robinson would eat into that,
There were some reports out this morning that the 49ers are a team that would be interested, and that makes some sense considering they've got some injuries at running back. Not named Christian McCaffrey. Like, McCaffrey's the healthiest player probably on that offense right now, which is
crazy,
kind of ironic. But I do think that's a good situation where he could come in, be a backup, and then if he ever gets a chance to start, now we are talking about him as somebody that we want in a roster. I don't think he's all that different from Jordan Mason. I do think maybe he could fill that Jordan Mason void that they don't have right now.
I was sitting here thinking, like, I'd rather just kept Mason if you knew everything you know now, but that's not how the world works. I prefer Mason a little bit. Like, if you'd add one to the Cowboys, I'd rather have Mason than Robinson.
Yeah, I think Mason's a better player, but they also got
they're close.
A draft pick for Mason, and they might be able to sign Brian Robinson for nothing, right? But that's kind of what we're hoping for, is a situation like that where he can be the clear-cut starter, if a guy goes down. But I don't think anybody is signing him to be their RB1. If they are, they have some pretty massive running back issues.
And I guess the short answer is, if you're a Robinson owner, if he ends up in Dallas, Chicago, San Francisco, I'm shopping him immediately. You might get something instantly. Instantly. If you even now, people talk about him, so they might even be a little more interested.
And that's the thing. Like, once we get to the games, nobody's going to be talking about Brian Robinson, right?
No.
Like, it's just because we're just waiting for any kind of news. So I agree. Like, if you can flip him for third-round pick, does that feel about right?
I do it right now. Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
Right now. Yeah, I do it right now. I'd do it no matter where he lands, I'd do it.
No matter where he lands.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be 8 carries for 42 yards and 1 catch for 6,
Yep. Those are the definition of a roster clogger in your. Yeah. You don't want it. All right. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Matt on Twitter at Williamson NFL. I am at Marcus _Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.